to me, last night wasn't necessary for the buildup of Bad Blood. I didn't, there was nothing new I learned. I kind of felt like, all right, now I'm ready for the payoff. I'm ready for the pay-per-view. I'm ready for Bad Blood this weekend. Did you feel the same way? Like almost like it was like, all right, I'm ready. Enough of this. I'm ready to move on.
No, I didn't feel like enough of this and I'm ready to move on. I was looking forward to another entertaining 3 hours of Monday Night Raw like we've gotten for the past couple of months. I think the past couple of months, and maybe even more, Raw has either been good or great. Last night, I thought it was an underwhelming show. And the things that I was looking forward to, like the last Monster Standing match, kind of, in my eyes, for my entertainment, fell a little short also. Now, none of the things that fell short came from a lack of effort from the talent. It's just that I would have liked to have seen some different stuff. And I think they missed some beats last night.
I think so, too. And listen, the ring collapsing, I think you saw that coming from a mile away. And we've seen it before. So it didn't really have the effect. I know that there's always new fans coming, and I completely understand that. So I can understand why they had something like that happen. But for me, it didn't really have the same effect that I think they were looking for. And the one thing I thought, and we talk a lot about it here on the show, is the refereeing. And the official last night, I wanted to pull my hair out. It got to the point with Bronson Reed and his frustrations over the official that I wanted to see Bronson Reed win the match just based on the fact because he's right. We see the spear through the barricade to a couple of the rows at ringside. Fans fly all over the place, which I thought was a great visual. Like fans just flying. And then you see like 20 WWE officials run out from the back to ringside, which I thought was a great visual too. Like, holy shit, is somebody really hurt? Was this supposed to happen? Was this not supposed to happen? There was that cloud of like, I don't know. But the one person that doesn't need to be involved is the referee. If you have 20 people helping the people, why does the referee have to be one of those people? That's not the referee's job. There's people. The referee needs to be involved and invested in the two people that are in the match. So Bronson Reed, again and again, like, all right, now he turns around. Where's the referee? Where's the referee? The referee's helping people at ringside. I can understand why Bronson Reed was so frustrated. And again, even this morning, I'm wondering why did the referee need to be involved in what was going on at ringside?
I'll tell you why. You ready?
Yep.
Because.
There we go. There's that evil word again that we have not said in so long, but that's the best way to describe what happened last night, Bully.
0 sense. So let's try to break this down and how it should have gone down, what sense it was supposed to make. I understand that if two 350-pound men, excuse me, go through a barricade and fans in the front row were to get hurt, I could understand how all of a sudden the human side of the referee comes out, where for a second you forget about the match because you're a normal human being and some fans just got hurt. You're going to want to go help them. It's almost like, oh my God, like there's something more important going on than this match right now. People are actually hurt. Let me be first on the scene to try to help one of these hurt people out. It's kind of like when I talk about, I like the unsuspecting hero. Like if a baby face is getting beat up in the middle of the ring and a cameraman puts the camera down to jump in the ring and say, don't do it anymore. Or somebody were to get up from the announce desk, JR saying, my God, you've gone too far. You got to stop. All that stuff. Somebody who comes to the rescue that you don't expect to come to the rescue. So last night, referee Chad Patton jumping out of the ring and trying to come to the rescue, be like a quote unquote first responder to those people that are hurt in the front row. Okay, I could buy into it. But the second all of those other people come pouring out of the back, whoever they are, security, medical, your sister's ass, it don't matter. Once all those people come in, the referee should have gone back to the ring. Now, here's what pissed me off. Chad Patton actually goes back to the ring after all the people from the back, including, I believe, Adam Pearce, comes out. Once Pearce is out there, the referee should be like, okay, the general manager's here. He's got people helping him out. They have this under control. I have to get back to my job. Do you remember when Bronson Reed went to the top rope? They did a camera shot, kind of like, it was a hard camera shot from high up. Mm-hmm. And you see Chad Patton standing in front of the announce table, looking up at Bronson Reed, telling him, like, no, don't do it. And I'm like, first of all, why is he telling him not to jump off the top rope? It's a last man standing match. I know he's pantomiming or doing whatever, but he does go back to the action. He does start acknowledging what goes on in the ring. So I figured after the splash, he's going to roll in and start counting. The splash happens. Where does Chad Patton go?
He goes right back to the melee at ringside.
You can't make sense of that. That does not make sense at all. At all. I don't know what they were trying to protect. Maybe they were trying to protect against Braun getting up from the 10 count, but you could have just counted slower. It could have been anything. But to have Chad Patton go back and then leave again, yeah, Bronson's going to come down. He's going to throw him down to the ground and go, what the hell is going on? If I am going to point out issues with referees in AEW, I will point out issues with referees in any wrestling company, because I was brought up in this business by the veterans that taught me, whether those veterans were in ECW, whether those veterans were in WWE, taught me you always protect your referee. And you can get Jimmy Corderas on the phone, you can get Brian Hebner on the phone, you get Earl Hebner on the phone, you get any referee that I've ever worked with on the phone, they'll tell you Bubba always made sure the ref was protected. Last night, I didn't see any protection of the referee.
And you make a great call. They did have that shot where you saw him, you saw Chad on the floor, and his arms were waving. I don't know exactly, like you said, it seemed like he was telling, don't do it, but like that doesn't make any sense because you're not in the ring counting, and like this whole thing is going on, and it's a last man standing match, so he has every right to go and do that tsunami off the top rope once again. But then he goes back, and then Bronson Reed gets pissed off, and he comes out, and he grabs Chad, and he turns him around, like, get in the ring and start counting. And then he throws him down to the ground. And Adam Pearce is in Bronson Reed's face, like, what the hell are you doing? What's wrong? They're like, dude, what are you doing? Whatever's happening at ringside is being taken care of. It's under control. There's a match that's taking place. It's the main event of Monday Night Raw on national TV. All right, what's happening at ringside is being taken care of, but you're all just like, forget it? Like, there's no match happening? Like, completely forget what's going on in the ring? I'm sorry, boy, that made it took away from the match. It made absolutely no sense. It took me out of it, and I got to tell you, it really affected the way I watched that match last night.
So wait a minute. Okay, so now I got to ask you this. If that took you out of the match last night, how come it doesn't take you out of the match when it happens on a weekly basis in AEW?
I mean, you have to give me an example, Bully, of that.
There's an example every single week. There's a glaring example every single week. There's a glaring example on every pay-per-view. They could give a flying rat's ass what happens with those referees. You're not nearly, and when I come on, sometimes when I'm on a Thursday with you and Tommy and I bitch about the referees, you're like, blah, 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 you're just nitpicking.
Well, I mean, and maybe, Bully, it has to do with the fact that we see it more often in AEW. Like, if it's like what you're saying, like on a weekly basis, that it's at the point where after a while, it doesn't affect you like it should. I mean, I'm just throwing shit at the wall here.
No, and you could
But
be right, because you could be
yeah,
so desensitized to the lack of good refereeing in AEW that now it's just passe. It's par for the course.
and maybe I don't expect as much, but in the WWE I do expect it, and it is the way that it is. And like last night was just so glaring. Last night it was so glaring that it really. I mean, I'm just being honest. And listen, if there's fans out there that are like, "Oh, come on, it was great. The match was fun. All this stuff. I had a great time. I was entertained." That's awesome. I'm not saying in any way that I'm trying to take your enjoyment out of it. If you enjoyed it, like I said, Paul, our producer, was all about last night's show and about the main event. If that was entertaining to you, by all means, I'm just saying, for me, it really took me out of it last night. It really
The carnage was entertaining. I can see how people would be entertained by two monsters like Godzilla and King Kong beating the crap out of each other all over the arena and going through tables and the announce table and the choke slams and the ring breaking. But anything that I saw last night from those two big men, I've seen before. The ring breaking, to me, no big deal whatsoever. And if you watch the people in the front row, the way they popped, Paul, you just typed in the chat, the ring exploded and Seth Rollins returned. What's the big deal about the ring exploding?
I mean, it's not like this is an everyday occurrence. The last time it happened was 7 years ago.
You've seen the ring explode 3 times already in the WWE. The fans in the front row popped because they got exactly what they were expecting to see, not because it was shock and awe. So breaking
why is
the
that
referee.
bad? Sorry to cut you off. Why is that bad?
What's the point of it? You've already done it a million times. It's like throwing somebody off the top of the cell. Mick did it already. It's been done, and it's been done over and over again. You want to shock people? Do something completely different. Have Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed pick the ring up over their heads like they're going to throw a ring at one another. Now I'll be impressed. Breaking the ring is no big deal. I saw the Big Show do it. I've seen Brock Lesnar do it. I've seen other people do it. Oh, the ring broke. If that spot really would have worked the right way, you would have seen all 20,000 people popping. You saw some people in the front row jump up because people knew it was coming. So it's not special.
It's to me, and I agree with you, Bully. I don't think it was that special, and it was a cool moment. I'm not taking anything away from it. All right, you did it. It's fine. I'm with you, Bully. I was expecting more. We talked about it. Yes, we talked about it last week when it was first announced. And you're like, dude, they're going to go through arena walls, especially after what we saw last week between those two, where you saw them do what they did last week in the backstage area. I was expecting even more of that, 10 times. Joe Tessitore at the beginning of the show is like saying, hey, this arena may never be the same after tonight. They may have to reconstruct this arena after tonight. So now my expectations are high. It was fine. It was entertaining. I got to tell you, it wasn't what I expected, and I wasn't really all that impressed. Again, Paul loved it. That's fine. I'm not trying to take anyone's joy. I'm just giving my personal opinion of what I thought of that main event last night, and quite honestly, the whole show. You know, last night was the last 3-hour show of Monday Night Raw, at least for the next 3 months, and we don't know what's going to happen on Netflix. I didn't think it was a great show by any stretch of the imagination last night, Bully.
What time did the main event go into the ring?
I honestly don't remember an exact time.
Approximately 10:40 Eastern time. That gives it about 20 minutes of television time. So here's what I'd like to do. Let's take a break. Okay. And when we come back, I'm going to set the table and give you a scenario of when this match should have started and should have ended. Before we went to break, I was talking about a suggestion of how last night should have went as far as time-wise. when I see that main event go to the ring with 20 minutes left before the show is over, I'm immediately thinking to myself, all of the things that I wanted to see that I suggested on the show, I don't think I'm going to see, like the brawling on top of the ring trucks, or going outside the arena or through the arena. Like, I wanted to see complete destruction. Like when Godzilla and King Kong fight in a city, the city is destroyed afterwards, to the point where it's going to take years to rebuild the city. And they used the Kong and Godzilla references like in the packages that we saw. Like we saw Bronson Reed coming out of the ocean, walking up up onto the beach through the city, and Braun Strowman walking through the city. So there's already that feeling of those monsters gonna collide. But at 20 minutes before the top of the hour, there's only so much they're going to be able to do. Dave, do you know when I would have started this match?
Started the show?
The start of the show. Do you know what I would have ended the match?
When the show was over.
When the show was over. Ding, ding, ding. And I would have treated it like you were watching NFL Red Zone. Now, for those that are not familiar, NFL Red Zone, you can turn on this channel and they show all of the games. They show highlights of all of the games going on in the NFL on any given Sunday, correct?
Yes. It's literally the red zone. Whenever a team is in the red zone, they go to that game.
Start the match off at the top of the hour, at the top of the show, as if the show was supposed to start with something completely different. And then all of a sudden, the monsters just decide to come out and collide, and the match starts. Or you could do the traditional entrances, whatever you wanted to do. Give that match the entire front end of the show, the front break, the first 15, 20 minutes. Go to commercial break. And then when you come back, they're already fighting in the back. You get them fighting in the back a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, we have so much going on tonight. We'll take you back to the match if something important happens. If they get into the red zone, if they get into a situation where a big bump happens and the referee has to count. And then you proceed with the show. And then after every segment or after every other segment, you go back to the match. So they're fighting in the back loading docks. Then when you go back, they're fighting outside on top of the ring trucks. Then when you go back, they're in one of the suites at the top of the arena. You continue with your whole show and you keep going back to the last man standing match, a la Red Zone. And then the last 20 minutes of the match, they come brawling back into the arena and you can do everything that you did last night. I thought that would have given it a different flair, a different flavor. And if that would have been too much, let's just say I'm in the room right now and I'm pitching that idea. And Hunter goes, Bubba, that's 3 hours. That's entirely too much. Okay, fine. Start the match at 10. Do it at 10 o'clock. And then do 1 or 2 cutbacks. Cut back to the ring truck, with Andre on it. Get that imagery. Get that moment in time so you can have the monsters brawling on top of the ring truck with Andre's image. Then you go back to the ring for a match, and then you go back and they're fighting in the loading docks. And you get my point.
There's ways you could have done it. There's creative ways you could have done it. And I understand that the ring exploded. If you didn't want to end the show that way, or you had to end the show that way, you could have even had it earlier, and you could have had the face-off between McIntyre and CM Punk to end the show, where you didn't need to have a ring there. There's other ways you could do it. Here's the point, and I think what you're saying, Bully, I agree with. Do something that's completely out of the ordinary that you've never seen before, because I feel like this story deserved it. We've seen them brawl in the back where they've gone through a wall in the arena. We've seen the tsunami off the top of the car onto the windshield. We saw stuff that's like, holy shit, where we're like, man, what a great visual. Well, we see spears through the barricade almost on a weekly basis. We see that almost every single week. Braun Strowman doing the dive off the top rope onto everybody. That was pretty cool to see Braun Strowman do something like that. But again, we see that almost all the time. And it's to me, one of the most ridiculous things in all of wrestling is when everybody's huddled up together, holding with their arms around each other, waiting for somebody to dive on top of them. I don't care who's doing it. It's a horrific visual, and I wish they would stop doing it because it looks, excuse the word, Bully, fake. Nothing looks more fake than that spot. And then with the ring exploding, all right, cool visual. You want to do it for a new generation, but we've seen that time and time again. It's not going to be remembered. Why is it not going to be remembered? Because it's been done before. You could have done something last night that would have been remembered, doing something that's never been done before.
Do you remember your own personal reaction, or do you remember the reaction of the fans when Taz and Bigelow went through the ring?
It was holy fuck, holy shit, wow.
Complete shock and awe, because they had never seen anything like that, and it was the first time that it was done. Go back on the network, Peacock, whatever, and put in Taz Bigelow and watch when they go through the ring. Watch how the crowd reacts, both audibly and physically. Now, here's my point. A year later, they decided that they wanted to replicate the spot, but they went through the stage instead. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
Thank you. You had remembered the first thing, but you really don't remember the second. And I remember when Taz and Bigelow came up with the idea about the stage, there were a couple of people who were like, don't do it. And I'll be very honest, I was one of them. I was like, you cannot top going through the ring. Don't do something that's going to be less than. I don't think last night, I understand if Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman were the first ones to ever do that last night, well, you know what? The second ones to do it. I wouldn't have been okay, but I've seen the ring break, explode, collapse so many times, and when it's happened, it's like, okay, I've been there, I've done that. Now, I am 53 years old, so I do remember, every time they've done it. One of the things that stuck out in my mind last night were the amount of kids in that audience. Like, I saw a ton of children last night. For some reason, the amount of kids at Raw really hit me last night. I think it was right off the bat, too, when Jey Uso was coming to the ring. Lots of kids in the front row. Tons of kids dressed up.
Really quick, Bully, it's funny you said that because I noticed the same thing for SmackDown on Friday. When I was watching SmackDown on Friday, I was like, I couldn't believe the amount of kids that were in the audience. They're really tapping into this young generation right now.
Tremendous. And it kind of backs up our conversation, especially when it comes to Cody. I saw 3 kids dressed up as Cody in the front row, like wearing his robe and everything. Anyway, lots of kids. So I understand why they would go back to it because, yes, there's maybe a younger generation who's never seen it before. But if you go back and you watch the first time the ring broke, the second time the ring broke, the third time the ring broke, or last night, it's definitely the response isn't the same. Was it a cool visual? Sure it was. Did the guys bust their ass to do it? Sure they did. But I would have loved to have seen them treat last night as a first time to do something else.